Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. In regards to romantic justice, which is one of three things that I cited as necessary to turn this country around in the right direction, though people won't be going to heaven after my flesh dies, unless they obey God through me in time as individuals, and no one should be reproduced no matter what. That's where we are. But again, when we're talking about romantic justice, it is a huge thing. God is love. In Genesis, it says it's not good for him to be alone. Why? Because romantic justice is extremely important. God said in Genesis, toward the very start of the book, that romantic justice is divine, it's sacred, it's necessary, it's extremely important. That's why no monks could beat me at my martial art challenge. Because the brain function and the existence in the soul and the spirit of he who seeks romantic justice is greater than he who doesn't. That is a core reason, a very key reason, that I'm the top martial artist ever possible, not anyone else. And I'm not cocky, this has to be said, especially because other people are too afraid to say it. There are cultures which include romantic injustice, and by that I mean they don't do romance justice. They aren't living romantic justice. The people in those cultures are too afraid to tell the truth about who I am publicly and to rally to me publicly. Therefore, their cultures must be seen as inferior because that's what they are. What are the differences between the idea of a young Fred Flintstone, a young Captain America, a young Sandman, and a young Al Bundy? Well, one, none of them live romantic justice. None of them. They all fail in life. They fail to serve God. They fail to be truly righteous. They fail to be romantically just. And the females in their community fail to pull them toward romantic justice by insisting that they become romantically just before they date them. Their societies have failed them. Their communities have failed them. The differences have to do with their individual life experiences. Hell, they could all be siblings. And things would probably still turn out the same way for them, for the ideas of them. And where we estimate, the word mate is an estimate. Where we estimate them to be and where we estimate them to be going. That's what I'm referring to here. And we all have seen the cartoons. We've seen countless people in our lives. And we generally know how people are generally. But people's life experiences, their cultures, their ways, their paths, their philosophies prevent them from doing the right thing in regards to romantic justice. I'm the only one doing romantic justice. I'm the only one living it. So what are the differences? Well, Sandman's a little tougher than the rest of them. Remember, Captain America, before he had the super soldier serum, was not very tough. A little scrawny guy. Not very tough. Not a martial artist. I'm just a scrawny guy. Al Bundy, not very serious. Fred Flintstone, not very serious. In fact, Captain America, Al Bundy, and Fred Flintstone are not very serious people. Captain America becomes like a propaganda lunatic when he gets older. Al Bundy becomes a complete clown, as does Fred Flintstone. Well, they're all the same race. For those of you who like to look at it in terms of these minorities are ruining the country, where there you have four distinct personality types. There's overlapping characteristics, yes. And we see some of the answers that we're looking for as to why they are the way they are in cognitive psychology, in the cognitive perspective of psychology. What is the process of their reasoning, nature and nurture considered? What goes through their heads and why when they decide to be who they are? When the Sandman decides to harden his heart and be a criminal, what happened to him? What happened to him at home? What happened to him when dating? What happened to him when it comes to how the government treats people and the environment that it creates, when there's social engineering, urban development, city planning, when they're passing legislation, when they're making social policy and insisting on it, when the social controllers get on his case, the neighbors, his parents, the police, the teachers at school, people he walks by on the street, people in stores, security guards. As we consider the social processes that are taking place, surely you must all see that Sandman didn't become Sandman simply because of his genes. No, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes an environment to make us who we are in the end. Even in all my transcendence, to some degree, I'm a product of my environment. Being raised by a humanitarian who's a brain surgeon. Clashing with unfair people at school, unfair people on the internet, unfair females in the club, on the streets, in the libraries, at school, wherever I came across them. Things that inspired the righteous indignation that I have, that made me the particular form of righteousness that I am. So why isn't a young Captain America righteous? Why not a young Al Bundy? Or a young Fred Flintstone or a young Sandman? Because of poor governance. Because of things that worsen poverty. Because of how poverty not only damages the poor, it damages the middle class. It damages the upper class. One who's slack at his work is brother to one who destroys. And they pay a spiritual price for it, a mental price for it, a social price for it. When we see them, we see punks. When they look in the mirror, they see a punk. Their conscience is subtly and otherwise telling them, why won't you man up and tell the truth about everything? Why won't you stand firm for what's right? And it tears them down, and it tears down their communities and this nation and the planet. So why isn't Sandman a man of God? First and foremost, because your governments failed him. Your governments exert so much power over families that they're determining how they think. It's even in the word government. Government. Ment meaning mind, as in mental. So when you complain about the cultures of the poor, how could you miss the fact that their response to the cultures of the rich, who cancel any cultures they don't want there? If there's any major culture there in the ghettos, in the poorer areas, it's because the governing class didn't counsel them like they counseled Martin Luther King, like they counseled Malcolm X and the Black Panther Party, like they're counseling me right now in 2025, suppressing me illegally. There hasn't been a moment in this nation's history when the government didn't deliberately violate the Constitution. Unbelievable. Patriots, so-called patriots, don't want to admit to themselves that to stand for America is to stand for violating the Constitution, because America has never upheld the Constitution. Either you're on the side of the Constitution in a morally precise application of it, for example, or you're on the side of the government that has never respected and honored the Constitution. The ideas that went into the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution were ideas coming from hypocrites. Did they think all people were actually equal? No. Did they think all people are born equal in the eyes of God? No. Some of them were Christians, and they're deists, and they have various deities that were born superior to other life forms. Jesus was not born the same as someone else. John the Baptist wasn't born the same as someone else. They believed in destiny. Christ said he would die, and on the third day, he would rise again. And of course, it's figurative. That's a story for another day. Isaiah predicted that Christ would come. People were destined for greatness, and some people were not destined for greatness. And among those were the founding fathers of America, no offense to anybody. And that's why they argued that all people are created equal, and they argued against a monarchy, though King David had a monarchy. Though Jesus is called the King of Kings. And they used King George as a straw man because they worshiped the devil. And their predecessors who govern America today, they worship the devil. And in the midst of the devil's hypocrisy, as he pretends that God is magically an unjust God, he screams about how he wants rights and sovereignty and freedom. But he doesn't give me my freedom of speech. Satanists are tail tucked on this issue. Luciferians, the church, they're all tail tucked. Because they know the ideas they worship are insufficient. And the idea of a one true God that is righteous, is sufficient, is greater than sufficient. These people failed to govern in a way that was anywhere near decent. And I would govern perfectly. The population failed to come together to insist that the government behave appropriately. And I have stood firm by myself. Proven definitively then a moral monarchy is infinitely greater than American democracy. Thank you.